We're back here at Fort Roberdeau today. A little more going on than the last time we were here. We're here for Revolutionary War days. And I believe Glenn mentioned that when we were talking to him the last time we were here. So we decided we'd come over and give you a look at exactly what goes on here when there are a lot of reenactors in the fort. So sit back, relax, and let's see what we can find.
How you doing today? Rangers to defend from Bedford to Bald Eagle. That's Milesburg, Pennsylvania. That's 100 Rangers for 100 miles of frontier. So there just weren't enough of these guys to form an effective barrier against native raids. And on occasion, when the Rangers would meet the enemy in battle, they would lose because the natives were absolute masters of the art of la petite guerre, the little war. We would call it guerrilla warfare today. Okay, so next, we have a loyalist. Now, these are known as Tories. These are known as Tories by their enemies. They call themselves loyalists. They are Americans who have remained loyal to King George. They think the revolution is a bad idea. And you might notice something about our loyalist friend. How can you tell the difference between him and the militiaman and the ranger? He stinks. Here first. There's one little clue. See that yellow ribbon? Yeah, I mean, the loyalists are also serving in their civilian clothing in this area. There were units of loyalists that served on the frontier and with the British Army that were uniformed, but the loyalists that we had to deal with in this area were not. So you're basically going to know what someone else's political affiliation is, and that's how you can tell the difference, because you know them and you know their politics. In many occasions, young men on the frontier adapted the clothing styles of the natives themselves. So rather than having a uniform or your civilian clothing, which is more of a European nature, you're going to have white men who are accoutring and clothing themselves as natives. And what we have here that's different, notice the coif, notice the hair style. He would have plucked his hair on the sides of his head. He has just a tuft there on top. And he is not wearing any pants. He is wearing what is known as a breech clout, which is a piece of cloth, and yours is leather, it could be. It covers the front, it covers the back, and that's about it.
You'll notice I have some white on my face versus traditional red and black war paint. White, for my father's people, would represent home or the South or purity. So for me, hopefully as I speak well, I think well, and my words come out that much better because of the white paint on my forehead. White paint by the eye to see better, so on and so on and so on. Do know, men, and I'll end with this, we are rather humbled in Native society. In most of the woodland cultures, women had not only a consensus vote, but they could nullify a men's council's decision like that. And we men actually, you often see the movies that speak of the chief. Well, the man who was speaking wasn't necessarily the chief. He was simply the best orator, the best public speaker on a council of men. And he was speaking for the tribal consensus, not for himself or his own sense of power.
All right, so we know, the old adage, America the melting pot. The same can be said for the 18th century. In this area, you don't have just one type of people. You have English, you have Scots-Irish, you have Germans, you have all sorts. Those are only to name 3. As we just demonstrated, we still have a mix of those people here today. I am representing not only a female on the frontier, but one of German heritage. So most of what I'm wearing has similarities to those women of Scots-Irish or English descent, but just with a few little tweaks.
We're going to start with the most common small arm of the American Revolution, and that is the musket. This is a flintlock, muzzle-loading firearm. It is a .75 caliber weapon. It fires a lead round ball that is almost 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So it has a lot of knockdown power. A musket is a smooth bore, meaning the inside of the barrel is not rifled. It's just like a shotgun. It's a tube. And it fires this lead ball, which will bounce down the barrel, and it probably can hit a target at about 75 to 100 yards. Beyond that, you might hit a target, but it won't be the one you aimed at. That is a loaded musket. I am going to do 3 more things. I am going to make ready. I'm pulling the musket up in front of me, and I'm going to pull the cock back until it clicks 1 more time. Now when I pull the trigger, the cock with the flick, grasp in its jaws, will fall forward. It will strike the steel hammer. It will hopefully make enough sparks to ignite the gunpowder in the pan, which hopefully will allow the ignition to travel through a small hole drilled in the breech of the musket, which hopefully will ignite the main charge inside, which hopefully will send the musket ball bouncing happily down the barrel toward the target. I said one word often.
Hopefully.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. So let's try it. Next command would be, in the British Army, it would be present. In the American Army, it would be take aim. Same thing. 1, 2, 3. We are on the frontier. And there's another weapon that is more valued here on the frontier than the smoothbore musket, and that is the rifle. We have a rifleman here. The difference with a rifle is that there are grooves cut into that barrel in a spiral fashion. So when you fire that, the ball comes out. The ball fits very tight. It's not a loose-fitting ball like this. So when it comes out of that barrel, it's spinning. Its trajectory is going to be straighter. So this rifle can hit a target at 2 to 3 times the range of a common musket. Now he's going to also take very, very careful aim at his target.
Whoa.
Now that, hopefully. Yes, hopefully. We planned that one out very carefully because I wanted to explain to you what a flash in the pan is. When the powder in the pan goes off and the touch hole is plugged with perhaps some debris or maybe a little grease, you get that flash in the pan but no boom. And that's what a flash in the pan means. You've probably heard that expression. Well, that guy was a flash in the pan. So what you have to do in that case, you would have with you a tool called a pick, and you would just wear that on your belt. You would take that pick and you would try to open that touch hole. You want to try again? All right.
Well, that one
So
was
there
a
you
lot
go.
lighter than his. Pump might have more
Why
powder
was the
in it.
rifle more valued on the frontier than the quicker loading musket? Well, as we said, it was more accurate at a longer range. You are not fighting in an open field here on the frontier. You are not fighting a massed army where volume of lead is important in overwhelming the enemy. You're not fighting in that environment. You're fighting from tree to tree in a wooded landscape. So, your first shot is maybe the only one you're going to get. You're going to be rolling these forward as your army moves forward. If you're retreating, the other way around. There are also guns that are mounted on garrison carriages and naval carriages. Those are not so maneuverable. We're only going to talk about the field gun today. Now, you also have to go through a number of steps to load this gun. It is going to fire one of many different kinds of projectiles. If you're shooting at a building or an enemy ship or a whole lot of troops that are clustered together, you are going to fire a solid iron cannonball. It does not explode. Now, a solid iron cannonball can go through 14 human bodies at a time before it stops. So it's very effective at long ranges. When the enemy gets in closer, you have other kinds of projectiles that you can use. You have canister, a tin can filled with iron or lead balls. Turns this gun into a large shotgun. Devastating impact at close range. Are you loaded?
We are.
All right. They have loaded the weapon and they are ready to fire.
Make ready.
She's gonna sling it.
Fire.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad the smoke was going
Now, you have to pay extra for the smoke ring. Not everyone in this area wanted to be independent from Great Britain. There were men called loyalists, and their enemies called them Tories, who wanted to remain loyal to the king, thought the revolution was a bad idea, and some of them actually took up arms to help the British. And one of these groups, a group of about 30 men, mostly from what's now Huntingdon County, they have a plot. And their plot is they're going to get together and they're going to secretly march to Kittanning, where they will meet a sizable party of Native Americans, and then our Tories will lead them back to the Juniata Valley, and they will take revenge on their patriot neighbors. That's the plot. Now, what actually happens is this. Of course, you have 30 people, right? Have you ever kept a secret when 30 people know about it? So it leaks out. And as a result of leaking out, just about everybody that is able picks up their rifle or musket and they organize a party to go after these guys. And they go out over the mountains toward Kittanning. They need not have worried. What actually happened was, communications, of course, on the frontier can be very poor. So our party of 30 Tories gets very, very close to Kittanning. They've been mostly marching at night. Secret, secret, secret. They get to Kittanning. They run into a war party that doesn't know anything about this plot. And guess what? The war party thinks that they are patriot militia, and they fire on them. The leader of the party is killed. And when you watch the leader fall down dead, what are you going to do? Run. So they break apart and they flee back to their homes. Some of them end up joining the British. One of the leaders of this party, a man named McGee, actually ends up joining the British later on. Others are rounded up, arrested, and sent to Bedford jail. And some of them just disappear. So what happens to them? Well, the state government passes a bill of attainder and essentially confiscates their property for being in league with the British. That's what really happened. But it wouldn't make a very good demonstration. So what we're going to do today is we're going to extrapolate a little bit on that incident, and we are going to talk about and watch what might have happened if they had been a little luckier and they had been able to actually attack the lead mine fort. So we're going to send some civilians with an escort down the valley. They're going to go through Water Street and then make their way along an Indian path to the fort at Standing Stone.
Ladies are faster
Get back! Don't touch her! He's coming back with us. No. Run. Go.
Guys, I want you to, first male, and I want you right here.
Okay.
First male,
Form a line, right here.
German, I want you on this side.
Prime and load, prime and load.
Water break.
Prime and load.
Yes.
That'll teach them!
That scared me. That scared me.
Let's get plugged in the fort!
Ceasefire!
Right down there, that's George Washington.
No, it's not George Washington. That's because he has white hair.
Are those bad guys?
Like Abraham, I look like Ben Franklin.
Mr. McGee, the Loyalist commander, has asked for a parley. Parley coming from the French word to speak.
Where's the white flag?
We want our women back.
These men were former neighbors.
And by coincidence, sir, we are here to get our fort back.
It is not your fort.
It is.
It is not.
It's my imperative to inform you that you occupied this fort illegally. It is the property of the Penn family,
It is not.
not the
Property
people
Continental
of
Congress.
Sinking Valley Springs. Not at all.
Your king has no authority in this valley anymore, neither do the Penn.
I have a capitulation demand from General Clifton. It reads as such. This capitulation is made and completed between Major John Warren on behalf of His Excellency George and on behalf of Washington, as well as Governor Hamilton of New York and Mr. Hull of this fortification. Sir, that the inhabitants of this settlement lay down their arms, ammunition, both in the fort and private, and these garrisons be demolished. Number two, that the inhabitants are to occupy their farms peaceably, and their lives, these inhabitants, shall be preserved entire and unhurt.
You turn over the women. We will consider it.
We will hold the women until you depart.
Hurt twice when you release them.
You're crying.
Go back to your farms. Leave us alone.
We have orders otherwise.
The orders do not stand in this valley. The king is not sovereign over this land anymore.
My
General
fight,
Washington and the Continental Congress are who we obey.
my contest is not with you, sir.
My feet
I
are
fought
firing
with your
on my
father
fort.
at Niagara, with Braddock,
If you not, leave our valley.
and take her with us. And the others herein.
Follow you and get her back.
If you follow us, you won't have anybody left in the fort.
roll it was, guys. Hit fire and then have to reload. You see that? At the time, I thought that's all just left is ammunition. They go off.
Prime and load, gentlemen, and get him up. Prime and load, get him up.
Get your heads down. Get them back in the fort.
To the right about. Hey. Front. Bring in the mark.
Push him, boys. Push him. Push him. Move forward.
Here. Hold. To the right about. Face.
I need you to hold them off.
Got it.
Get your heads
Make
down.
Firing until he brings a cannon out.
Take aim. Fire. Prime and load. Prime and load. Get him up, gentlemen. Prime and load and get him up.
There's another misfire.
Greg, bring your boys up.
Get him up, gentlemen. Prime and load and get him up.
Bring them up.
So this actually happened. They're getting a lot of misfires, guys.
Gentlemen, make ready.
The lead they say we
Get
stole.
down. Take aim.
Yep.
Fire. Fire. Fire.
Ahead, Mark Fledgling back.
My weapon is what's called a ranging musket. It's shorter, it's easier to carry, I can manipulate it better, it doesn't get caught on tree limbs as a longer barrel would on these two. And again, it's a smooth bore, but notice the thinness of that barrel compared to the thickness of that barrel. So this is a smooth bore, this is a smooth bore, but this is different. This one I have cartridges pre-made, much like a paper penny holder, which has powder measured out with a ball on top, twisted at either end. I rip it, that's why you need to have two good front teeth. I prime, put this on full cock, then I swing it around, I take the rest and I dump it. What happens is the rest of the powder goes down, the ball falls on top, and then I'm left with the paper, which I push down and I wad it and I pack it. If I do not have that paper and I go to lift up my weapon without that paper, the ball is simply going to roll right out along with the powder unless it clumps, and I'm stuck with a useless weapon. You have to have that paper.
Well, we're glad you could join us today, and thanks for sticking around to the end. It was a little bit longer than we normally do, but it was a lot of good information, and we had a great time. Wanted to be able to share it with you. While you're here, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We could sure use the help. We appreciate every one of you. Until next time, have a great night.